39 minutes. That's all it took for Alexandra Eala's first Grand Slam mixed doubles campaign to end. On Tuesday at Louis Armstrong Stadium, Eala and Felix Auger-Aliassime, the world number 4 singles player, were beaten 4-1 by Elina Svitolina and Gael Monfils. The match was over almost before the crowd had time to settle in. And yet, somehow, that 39-minute loss may tell us almost nothing about what Eala is about to do in the US Open singles draw. In fact, it could end up helping her. Because here's what makes this story so wild. Eala walked off that court with $40,000 guaranteed from the mixed doubles event. The tournament's revamped format gives first-round teams $40,000, with no WTA singles ranking points attached to the result. The total mixed doubles prize pool is $2.88 million, with $1 million going to the winning team. And 3 days before the biggest tournament on the American tennis calendar, Eala is entering the singles draw ranked a career best number 18, the highest-ranked Southeast Asian woman in WTA singles history, and coming off the most important summer of her career. Heading into the US Open, she had risen to a projected number 17 seed after Victoria Mboko withdrew. That is a ridiculous transformation from where she was just 12 months ago. At the 2025 US Open, Eala was ranked around number 75 and had never won a Grand Slam main draw match. She changed that in dramatic fashion, beating number 14 seed Clara Tauson 6-3, 2-6, 7-6 after trailing 5-1 in the third set. She took the deciding tiebreak 13-11, becoming the first player representing the Philippines in the Open era to win a Grand Slam singles match. That night at the grandstand in Flushing Meadows was bigger than tennis. Thousands of Filipino fans packed the stands, many coming from Queens Little Manila. They didn't need a plane ticket to feel connected to the moment. They took the subway, brought Philippine flags, and turned the stadium into something that felt like a home court. And that's really where Eala's story gets complicated. The Philippines has more than 100 million people, and before Eala, the country had never produced a WTA Tour-level women's singles champion. There was no well-established national blueprint for a young Filipino woman trying to break into the professional game. So Eala started building her own path incredibly young. At 13, she left Manila and moved roughly 6,000 miles away to train at an academy in Mallorca, Spain. She had the talent early. In 2022, she won the US Open Junior Girls Singles title, defeating Lucy Havlikova in the final and becoming the first player from the Philippines to win a Junior Grand Slam singles title. But once she turned professional, talent wasn't enough. She lost early at the French Open. She lost early at Wimbledon. She kept getting close without breaking through. Then came New York in 2025. She was down 5-1 in the third against Tauson, staring at another painful loss. Instead, she fought back, forced a tiebreak and finished one of the most memorable comebacks in Philippine tennis history. That night created something bigger than a win. It created expectations. From that moment on, every match carried the weight of an entire country watching. And 5 months later, Melbourne showed just how heavy that weight could become. January 19, 2026. Australian Open. Court 6. Not Rod Laver Arena. Not Margaret Court. Court 6. A packed crowd of Filipino supporters showed up anyway. The queues stretched through Melbourne Park, Philippine flags covered the stands, and "Let's go, Alex" echoed around the court even during ordinary rallies. The opponent was American Alicia Parks. On paper, Eala looked ready. She won the first set 6-0. Then everything flipped. Parks came back to win the second set 6-3 and the third 6-2. Eala's Australian Open debut ended with a brutal first-round defeat after she had completely dominated the opening set. And afterward, Eala admitted something important. She said the welcome from the Filipino crowd was heartwarming, but it also made the loss harder because she knew so many people were rooting for her. She also acknowledged that the attention during that week had sometimes felt overwhelming. Think about that for a second. A 20-year-old player isn't just trying to win a tennis match. She knows thousands of people travel to watch her. She knows millions back home are following every point. And when she loses after leading 6-0, that disappointment isn't private anymore. That became one of the biggest questions surrounding her career. Could Eala handle the expectations? Because then came even more evidence that her ceiling was incredibly high. In Dubai, she beat Jasmine Paolini, then ranked number 8 in the world, 6-1, 7-6. She followed that by beating Sorana Cîrstea 7-5, 6-4 to reach her first Dubai quarterfinal, before Coco Gauff stopped her 6-0, 6-2. A few weeks later, her level rose again. She had already shown that she could beat elite players. But what she hadn't shown consistently was the ability to finish a week with a trophy. That finally changed in Washington. At the Mubadala DC Open, Eala defeated Zhu Lin, defending champion Leylah Fernandez, Elena Svitolina, and Naomi Osaka on her way to the final. Waiting for her there was world number 3 Jessica Pegula. And then came one of those matches where the weather seemed determined to become part of the story. Pegula won the opening set 6-4. Eala was down 2-1 in the second when storms stopped play. The final was suspended, and after hours of rain delays, the match had to wait for the next day. Imagine that situation. You have never won a WTA Tour singles title. You're facing the world number 3. You've lost the first set. And now you have to go back to the hotel, sleep on it, and come back the next day. Eala later described it as a crazy 24 hours and said she warmed up 1,000 times. But here's the part that matters. When play resumed, Eala did not fold. From 4-3 down in the second set, she took control. She won the second set 6-4. Then she stormed through the deciding set 6-0, winning the final 9 games of the match and dropping only 8 points in that third set. The final score, 4-6, 6-4, 6-0. Her first WTA Tour-level singles title. The first WTA singles title ever won by a player from the Philippines. And suddenly, the conversation changed. Everybody called it a breakthrough. But I think breakthrough actually misses the bigger story. Go back to Melbourne. Eala wasn't lacking talent there. She won the first set 6-0. Her problem was closing. In Washington, she did exactly the opposite. She was behind, she had time to think about the pressure overnight, she came back the next day and won 9 straight games. That wasn't necessarily a player becoming more talented. That was a player learning how to finish. Think about a race car that has always been fast but keeps losing because something goes wrong in the final lap. Washington wasn't the day the car suddenly got faster. It was the day the brakes finally started working. And that matters heading into New York. Because look at what happened next. At Wimbledon, Eala reached the 4th round, beating defending champion Iga Swiatek along the way and becoming the first player from the Philippines to reach the second week of a Grand Slam. Then came Toronto. She beat Alicia Parks, the same American who had beaten her in Melbourne. She followed that by defeating Katie McNally 6-3, 5-7, 6-4 in a 3-set battle to extend her winning streak to 7 matches. Belinda Bencic eventually ended that streak in the next round. Then Cincinnati. Eala entered as the number 17 seed. She beat Elena Gabriela Ruse before meeting Amanda Anisimova, then ranked number 10. Eala won the first set 6-4, but Anisimova fought back to win 4-6, 6-4, 6-2. Notice the pattern. Eala can beat top players. She can take the first set. She can push elite opponents deep into matches. And even when she loses, the losses are increasingly coming against the best players in the world. That is why Tuesday's 39-minute mixed doubles defeat deserves some perspective. The mixed doubles format is completely different. Sets are first to 4 games, there is no ad scoring, and the event uses a match tiebreak instead of a traditional third set. There simply isn't much time to settle into a rhythm, make adjustments, or slowly figure out an opponent. And Eala's biggest single strength has often been her ability to read a match, make adjustments, and then take control. You don't get much room for that in a 4-game set. So what did Tuesday actually cost her? 39 minutes on court. No singles ranking points. And about $40,000 in guaranteed prize money. That is not a disaster. That is basically a paid hit on Louis Armstrong Stadium in front of a full crowd before the main event begins. And there's another piece of the puzzle, rest. Her recent results have already shown that Eala has been playing a heavy schedule. Early exits in Toronto and Cincinnati may actually leave her fresher for the US Open than a long deep run would have. Then there was one final detail that stuck out. Hours after the mixed doubles loss, Eala was seen in the stands at Arthur Ashe Stadium watching a tennis exhibition featuring Roger Federer, Andy Roddick, Andre Agassi, and John McEnroe. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't acting like her tournament had collapsed. She looked like what she really was, a young player who had just lost a short doubles match and still had the biggest singles opportunity of her season sitting right in front of her. So no, I don't think that 39-minute scoreline is a bad omen. I think the bigger story is this: 1 year ago, Eala was the number 75 ranked player trying to win her first Grand Slam match. Now she's at career-high number 18, a WTA champion, a Grand Slam second-week player, a threat to top 10 opponents, and one of the most heavily supported players at the US Open. The question is no longer whether Eala belongs at this level. She clearly does. Now we get to find out whether Washington really repaired the one part of her game that used to disappear when the pressure became overwhelming. Because if those breaks really are fixed, then that 39-minute loss on Tuesday might end up being nothing more than a footnote before the real story begins. And the next chapter starts in New York.